Welcome to IoT215, which is about how to harness the full potential of IoT data. So this is a joint session between AWS and Domo. And my name is Prashant Adiraju. I'm the global segment leader for industrial IoT within the AWS Partner Network. It's codenamed as APN. And Domo is one of the APN partners. I'm going to be doing this joint session on this topic of IoT data. Right? So let's take a view of this. This whole theme of this session is going to be around data and how you really get the full potential of the data. And if you look at IoT, it's about connecting devices, collecting data from those devices, and then driving transformational outcomes from that data. So you might be putting IoT into your operations, or you might be putting IoT into your products. Now, the magnitude of this data, the analyst estimates that there's going to be about 79 zettabytes of data that's going to get generated over the next 5 years. I was looking at what is a zettabyte. I'm sure you have this question in your mind. And a zettabyte is like a million petabytes. And you're going to ask me, what is a petabyte? So let's simplify this. The internet, at the end of this year, is going to generate 2 zettabytes of data. Okay? So we're talking about 40 times the size of the internet in the 5 years is what this IoT data is all about. Right? Sure, so there's the IoT data aspect. Now, essentially, it's important to understand what are customers really doing with this data. Okay, and let me just take you through a few examples. But before I do that, in this session, what we're going to talk about, and I'll cover is the landscape, what customers are doing with AWS IoT. We'll talk about some of the complexities and how we are addressing those complexities with AWS IoT and its partner ecosystem with partners like Domo. And then the second half of the session is about Domo really talking about how they are helping customers really harness this full potential of IoT information. Okay? So let's start with several examples. Okay? So I want to start with an 80-year-old Finnish company. That's Kempi. Okay? They're in this welding industry, and they're a pioneer in this welding industry. And one of the key challenges in this industry is there is a shortage of skilled laborers, skilled welders, with all the demand that's happening with welding jobs out there. And in order to modernize the industry and in order to address the skill set shortage, what Kempi did is they built out a welding management software called WeldEye, and then they built one of their flagship products, connected it to the internet. And as a result, they're able to do 3 things, right? One is based on parameters that were stored in the cloud, and based on the profile of the job, and based on the profile of the user, those parameters would get applied, and then the skill set gap would get bridged. Second thing is authentication. You're bringing the right person to the right job. And the third thing is you're collecting data. And as a result of collecting data, you're able to now deliver compliance, make every welding job better over time. Yeah? Now, they built this on AWS IoT. They're able to get it done 50% cheaper in terms of software development costs. They're able to bring this to market 6 months faster. And then more importantly, they're able to drive refreshes on this product 10 times a week versus having to do this once in 6 months. Right? Now, if I look at this list, here's Vizio that's connecting its millions of televisions to AWS IoT. You've got Pentair that's improving its water filtration systems. Deutsche Bahn that's managing its fleets of trains, tracks, stations using AWS IoT. You've got Module that's doing something interesting, which is reimagining the insurance business model with their smart bells. Then you've got players like Enel doing energy management. You've got Shark Ninja here, right, that basically do robotic vacuums. They're just connecting all this stuff to AWS IoT services and then driving and managing these fleets of devices. And then you've got Thermo Fisher managing lab equipment. And you've got Rodimatic here, which is they're making flatbread in minutes using their smart cookery gadgets. So in all of these examples, right, it all starts with what is the problem you're looking to solve. If you take the Kempi example, it was about solving for skill set shortage. Right? Pentair was about solving for the filtration system. How do we improve it? And at AWS IoT, we pose this question to customers as to what problems are you looking to solve, and how can IoT, with connecting data and collecting information, what can it really do? Now, there are a gamut of use cases, right? And I think you're probably looking at this from a standpoint of, if I add IoT to my operations, now how can I deliver and value in many of these use cases? Or if I add IoT into my products, what can I do? Like things from predictive maintenance, health and wellness solutions, productivity and process optimization. You've got things like connected buildings, you've got device fleet maintenance, you've got energy efficiency, and so on, right? Now, in the end, nobody's buying IoT technology. What they're buying is they're solving it to drive business outcomes. And what it essentially does is it helps you build new services and new business models, like what Module did with their smart belt. If you look at products that get better with time, take the robotic vacuums. As you keep using them, they get better. They get more intelligent. Third thing is better relationship with customers. Take the Vizio example with their Alexa integration into their smart televisions, you're now driving a richer customer experience. Or you take increased efficiency, like Valmet is improving the quality of paper. That's really adding IoT into their operations and really driving efficiencies there. Look at intelligent decision making. I think you can look at many examples like what GE does with their 3D printing, or what Valmet does with their quality, improving quality, for example. Now, in the end, it all boils down to this, right? It all boils down to either revenue growth or cost optimization. Now, if you're able to do both these things at the same time, it becomes even more compelling, right? Now, this is not easy. It's complex. There's a multitude of challenges. And the IoT stack, if you look at it, yes, if you have to add IoT into your operations or IoT into your products, it's all about onboarding those sensors and onboarding those connected devices. There's complexity of doing that. You need connectivity infrastructure. You need analytics, and you need visualization. We're going to talk a lot more about that problem in detail today with the Domo session. And there's a whole host of applications and services that you have to build with that information. Now, the way we are tackling this is with this approach. This approach of a domain-specific partner community that's built on the foundations of AWS IoT is the approach to solving that complexity of IoT and also driving transformational outcomes. So what this approach does is three things. It makes solution build easier. It makes deployment of these solutions faster. And the third thing it does is really increases the time to value for customers, right? Now, the stuff on the left is all about the AWS IoT services. Now, whether you look at whether it's Vizio connecting its millions of smart televisions, or Kempe connecting its welding equipment, or whether it's the Deutsche Bahn train, there's a set of commonality across all of that diverse sets of use cases and solutions, right? It's about connecting devices, collecting data, and then extracting value from that data, okay? So what AWS IoT does is those three things, which is with its AWS IoT device software, it runs, allows you to put these on devices, collect data in a secure way, and then you can drive local intelligence with that information, whether or not there's connectivity to the cloud, right? The third thing is you want to control and connectivity services. How do you manage these wide fleets of devices? Devices like this that can mean many homes across the globe. And how do you securely control and manage them? You may want to do firmware updates. The third thing is about data services, right? And that's the aspect of once you get all this information, what do you do with that information, right? Now, where the domain-specific capabilities comes in is with this AWS Partner Network. And what is the AWS Partner Network at a high level? What it is it's the AWS Global Partner Program of technology and consulting partners that essentially build products and services using AWS. And they provide business, technical, and marketing support for customers that are looking to use AWS to transform their businesses, right? Now, when we look at IoT, there's an aspect of complexity that you have to think about. A silicon vendor, you might be wanting to use their product in a connected washing machine. You will need a silicon product, like a reference design that's qualified to work with AWS IoT. You might need an OEM gateway if you're trying to add IoT into your operations and you've got your plant floor. You may want to be adding an IoT gateway into that plant floor to collect data. And then you may want to do local intelligence, not have to transport all this data to the cloud. You'll need edge gateways from an OEM. You'll need connectivity infrastructure and connectivity solutions. You need domain-specific applications. If you're looking to optimize, let's say, operational equipment effectiveness on a plant floor, you need some domain-specific applications for automotive. And then the last important piece is about system integration, which is 70% of the IoT projects will require system integrators because they have to put this stack together, right? So what this edge-to-outcome partner community does across this diverse range of partner types of silicon, OEM, connectivity players, the ISVs, and system integrators get applied to different verticals across industrial, commercial, and smart home. And it's this combination that we take to market into many of these markets and help drive transformation for customers. So what it does is it drives differentiation, because now this partner network is built on the foundations of AWS IoT. And the second thing it does is coverage. You may want the right hardware. You might be building a connected washing machine. You may want a qualified silicon part. Or you might want a domain-specific application for data visualization, like the one that Domo provides, for example. And the last important piece is to accelerate deployment and make it easier for customers to accelerate this. Right? Now, I think over the course of this week, there are many sessions where you can get a deeper perspective of what this IoT set of services are. And this is just a more elaborate view of some of those services. This is around device software, which is about connecting devices securely, collecting data, and then connecting and then controlling the fleets of devices, and then the whole suite of data services. So with this in context, what I would like to do is have Jay come up on stage and talk about the Domo proposition for a variety of the IoT data. Jay. Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us on your lunch break today. So I know that's a tough draw, but thank you for being here with us today. First, the public service announcement. Everybody should have had one of these on your chair. If you wouldn't mind, please enter to win. At the end of the session today, we're going to give away 3 of the Ion robots, and so this is your entry form to do so. So that's what's sitting on your chair today. So let's start by familiarizing us all with what is Domo. So Domo is a product that we've been in operations since 2010, and we operate across many different industries and a variety of use cases. We fundamentally believe that, as Andy was talking about during his keynote yesterday, the world is working to modernize their systems, and they're working to transform their businesses. And Domo fits right in the middle of that data transformation and digital transformation. One of the things that we do is, actually we'll go to the 3 ways that we accomplish this. The first is simply, we connect and transform. So what does that mean? Domo owns a collection of over 1,000 native data connectors. So if it's on-prem, cloud-born services, we own and operate and maintain a collection of these connectors that help you to grapple all the data that you have. Over the last 10 years, with the advent of cloud computing, you all of a sudden start to have different silos of data. If it's CRM with Salesforce, or marketing with Marketo and Eloqua or whatever, all these different data sources have now created a data problem, which is silos. And Domo aims to really break down those silos. We transform that data. We have our own ETL engine to help you normalize, combine data sets to create greater business outcomes. And then we visualize. So what does that mean? We've got a very rich BI capability. Native first in terms of we're native mobile, so we really want to put all the data in the hands of all of your employees at any given time to help them do their job better. We fundamentally believe if every customer or every employee of every customer had the right amount of data, then every single day they would do their job better. We provide capabilities in product to analyze your data. We'll talk about advanced analytics with data science. So either you can use our tools in the platform to leverage against your data, or you can bring in your own custom scripts with R and Python to bring that in, and we'll run that as managed code. And last but not least, is where we're going to focus a lot today, is on building apps and extending. We provide you with the tools to build applications to leverage all of that data that sits in your AWS environment and other. And then we have the ability for you to take that data and not only provide it to organizations within your firewall and in your organization, but to extend that and help monetize that data through your trading partners and customers as well. So Prashant mentioned IoT it's complex. It's actually been around for 20 years, the concept. So this is the 20th year of the word IoT, but it's still very much in its infancy. And people are starting to really figure it out. And the Domo value proposition is really, we provide you with all the tools to connect to this data and then bring it all the way into the hands of end users. And I would say one of the uniquenesses that we have in our perspective with IoT is we also enable you to round trip that data, to complete the cycle. So when some data comes into your hands, we don't want to just have you read it and see what's happening. We want to invoke an action. So we provide write-back capability that takes data and writes back to data source to create an action. And that's very unique from what we've heard from our customers. You see the IoT or the AWS IoT services listed here. We were a launch partner for IoT Analytics March of last year, and we continue to make material investments working with the AWS team because we fundamentally believe that they have such an amazing set of services and capabilities for the world to leverage for IoT data. So what is the Domo IoT Cloud? Well, we have two different platforms depending upon what type of business that you operate in. We'll talk at the end of today about SharkNinja, who's a consumer packaged goods company. So clearly that would fit in the consumer side. And we'll also tell some stories about industrial, so shop floor and other types of operations as well. We provide you with the ability to connect to limitless amounts of data or devices. Because we were born in the cloud in 2010, we have the ability to scale at the scale of the internet. So we don't have to provision hardware on behalf of customers when it comes time to add new services, new lines of businesses, new products. We simply just do that at scale growth, scaling with growth on AWS. I talked about the connectors. I'll go there more in a second. Because we're also born in the cloud, we don't have a problem with data. We have customers that have literally 1 trillion rows of data that are going through our systems to help them understand what's going on with their business at any given time of day. We provide real-time analytics. Real-time to some people means daily, which is interesting to me because that doesn't feel so real. But some people want it as quickly as a minute, or the new world is also streaming. So we provide real-time as the data is you can give to us. And last but not least is third-party data. So when a machine tells you something, wouldn't it also be amazing if you could layer on top of that external data and other factors to learn the true story of what's happening? And I'll show you that in action as well. We also provide the ability to have you tie your data into these purpose-built applications so you don't have to do the work. So we've taken very common scenarios that people have today when it comes to IoT, and we've productized those in the form of an application that you simply wire the data up, and you've got an instantly on available application. And we'll show you how that gets accomplished as well. So we've got 3 different applications. Device fleet management application. Think of this as CPG devices at scale, hundreds of thousands of these things. Production flow application is basically inputs in and the output, and all points in between, which includes shop floor. And last but not least is asset tracking, and I'll get into that at the end, especially when it comes to a partner announcement that we had this week. So we talked about the IoT connectors. We have dozens and dozens of those highlighted, of course, on top with the connectors that we have for the AWS services. And we fundamentally believe that, and the reason why we're here today partnering with Amazon on this is just because they have such a material lead in the area around the data piece. So you see up there Amazon S3 is an IoT connector, and you say, well, wait a minute, S3 is not an IoT data source. It's just it is a data source. And the reason why I put that on here and include this is, today, what we've found is many companies, they've connected to their devices and they store data. And they store data in S3. The challenge is they don't know what to do with that data. And when they tie into S3 and into their S3 bucket, they see all this data, but it takes a human to decipher and to figure out what does that even mean to me. But the Domo solution on top of AWS and with S3 is we'll show you how you actually can take and make IoT operations from data that simply sits in an S3 bucket without having to get super complicated and fancy and go all the way down to the device. So we'll show you all points in between. So IoT data, or IoTs first started out as an operational tool. So think of an operations manager who is watching some sort of a dashboard at their desk to make sure that things don't go wrong. A machine goes off, they see that, and they use that as a tool to run their business. Very few people had access to that IoT data. We firmly believe that IoT data should be turned from an operational tool to a company asset. And so what does that have to do with retail? Well, today Domo was announced as had our retail competency as a retail competency partner. So we have significant investment in the retail industry. But then how does that really translate into why we're here to talk about IoT? Well, take your common fast casual restaurant. And we've all been to those probably a couple times this week. We're Americans, right? And when you do that, you go and you stand in line. You maybe today you could use a kiosk. You go pay at a register, likely. And then that process kicks off the supply chain in the back of making your food, which is done on some sort of a machine that largely has, or more times than not today, will have some sort of a sensor to say, is it on, is it off? Is it operationally sound? Is it time for maintenance or up for warranty? All of those types of things are being produced by machines, which all goes to some place where somebody's looking at that data to do something. And our perspective is, why can't you turn all of that data that's being produced inside that store into actually, think of it as a network operations center. How are you running that business leveraging that data? So simple scenarios are, if you know how frequently you get a rush around lunchtime. What time does lunch start? What time does it end? The reason why you need to know that, you need to know how much you staff. How do you know that? You do that by POS data. If you want to increase your customer satisfaction, get more throughput in, you want to decrease customer time that they're waiting in line. How do you know that? Well, you've got beacon data that either tracks when they come in, you've got monitors at the door, you understand how long somebody's been in, how long they go out, you can understand how long their average wait time is to purchase. That's interesting information. Not a lot of people do that today. Let's go to discrete manufacturers. So somebody like a musical instrument manufacturer. They largely have these really big machines, a very few amount of, but very big, robust machines. They need to know critical pieces of data. That data today comes in the form of a chart or some sort of a graph. But what if you had the ability to layer on top of that rich analytics that show you really what's happening, not just a numeric value? And I'll give you an example of that as well. One that we've talked about, and this is a scenario that really leverages Verizon and AWS's commitment for the edge computing that they announced yesterday, is tracking of things, tracking of people, tracking of your product, your critical assets. Today, there are means to do so. I'm not going to say this is revolutionary, but the revolutionary part is the ability, how fast it is to actually deploy these types of solutions, and how quickly you can get time to value to learn critical parts of your business that you may not have before. So what if you knew what was in each of these containers, who packed it, if there's anything that's perishable, if there's anything that is regulated? All of this information today, what if you had that in the palm of your hand or a web-based application? Different than somebody who's aggregating that data largely in batch that produces a report tomorrow to look at what happened yesterday. And the last, and this is one I think is a fun one to talk about. Think if you have a product that is field-based, it goes a lot of different places, but also has a shelf life because of it'll wear out. So in this case, think of this as a hospital linen. What if you knew at any given time what was out in the field, how long it's been out there, if it's misplaced, when it's ready to be retired because it's been used so much, what type of treatment have you given it? What if you had all of that data in a single place so you could actually run your business of cleaning hospital garments if you ran that with today's technology? And that's the world we're living in today. Literally every industry relies upon data. It's just the data isn't being used effectively today. So there's so much optimization that can occur. So let's talk about the first application I talked about, device fleet management app. So here's an example of, let me see if I go back. No, we can't go back. So this application, it tracks all of your devices that you have in field. And I'll show you a long-form video in the end. And basically what this allows you to do is to light up hundreds and hundreds of thousands of devices to understand what's going on. You have the ability to layer on top data sets. So not only to see the system, so the state, is it on or is it off, but what's happening with it. So you can apply metadata that says you know when it was purchased, when it was first turned on. You know if there's different parts of data of where it currently resides. All of these things, how close it is to warranty is another big one when it comes to CPG. That's all made possible today. So what you see right here is a rolling scenario, which is basically monitoring hundreds of thousands of machines. You have the ability to not just monitor what's happening. This is showing system of state, by the way. The interesting part about this is you can see where it hits time zones. 6 a.m. is where the action happened. You have the ability to simply hover over machine for metadata, and that's what you see here. You can drill to device to understand what's exactly happening with a single device in a pool of hundreds of thousands. And this is all done and all made possible today, largely because of what we've done on the UI and the UX side from Domo, but then also because of the scalability and the services that Amazon provides in the back end as well. Production flow. This is an application I talked about, which is really, think about tracking inputs into your system, and it could be raw materials, it could be other parts of your supply chain. What happens to it when it goes into your factory. So again, here you see condition of state, which is conditional formatting based upon things that are in error or are in good condition. We have the ability to create custom SVG mapping, so you can actually create maps of what your devices look like. Why is that important? The reason why that's important is if something goes wrong, in this case with a spiral freezer, the machine alerts you that it's breached some sort of a health condition. It sends a note out automatically with the machine, and it sends a note out via dispatch to somebody in maintenance to come fix it. Rather than the maintenance person coming back to run diagnostics on what is going wrong, you told them exactly what's going wrong. You give them a picture of where that particular sensor is so that they can bring the right parts and they can be very, very efficient in terms of repair. And last on this particular application, how do you manage and monitor the entirety of your warehouse? Well, again, make it into a picture that really brings to life the data. So rather than having all of this data being serviced to you in a spreadsheet, what if you did it in a picture? Made it something that was much more tangible, easy to consume, recognize when there's challenges. The other thing that I'll mention about Domo is we provide alert at root level data. So what I mean by that is if any piece of data surpasses the threshold that you've provided it, either with min and max, it sends a notification off to you. The reason why that's important from an IoT perspective is it takes away the need and the necessity for somebody to be watching and to make sure that everything is operational. And instead, they're off doing more highly differentiated, high-value tasks, and they only get involved when the machine says something went wrong. So it completely changes the paradigm of how you operate your business. So I'll roll through this. What you see here is it's showing you clustered devices. Size of bubble shows how many is in location. It has the ability to provide unique data to your circumstance and situation on the left. So in this example, it says that your dinner roll's performance is low. We know that because we knew what yesterday's production was. It shows you in action what happened with which particular device. Each piece of your production line has data including metadata so that you can drill to understand what's happening. And last but not least, we can track transport. So inputs in and follow through all the way through to the output. Asset tracking. Asset tracking is not something that's brand new to the IoT industry. But what is a little bit different about it is our approach to how do we make this approachable to end users and to business people, not just operations people. And I don't mean to be, I'm not being disrespectful to operations because those people are extremely important. But what I'm saying is an operation person can look at this data to perform a function. But the data that they use could also be exposed to lines of business, sales, marketing, product development, and other, to understand what's happening with their products. So that's when I talk about the operational tool turning into a company asset. It really means to liberate that data and put it into the hands of as many people as possible. So this asset tracking application, on the left-hand side, you see it's a fully mobile experience. Has the ability to leverage all the iPhone capabilities that you have, including camera. And why is that important? In this particular case, a security person checks into a lot. They take a picture of the specific number. In this case, it's a numeric number of what's of the trailer. They provide this information to the driver who takes it, and because they know that the driver is actually the person that logged in, they can see where do they go park that trailer. So we heard today in the Partner Summit this discussion that I believe it was Avis talked about this really amazing application that they built to track their fleet. And it was really cool. It was really slick. It took them a long period of time with a lot of people to do that. What I'm showing you here is something that gets deployed in a matter of weeks. So rather than the complexity of somebody the size of Avis, we want to bring to you these applications that can provide you real-world value very, very quickly. A matter of weeks with much more limited resources rather than years with a large distributed development force. So now that you know where to park, it tells you you've arrived. Now what happened is because you arrived at the location, now your operations center understands that your payload has been delivered. You know where it is. You don't lose inventory. We provide the ability to alert. As I mentioned before, what you see here is an example of a lock screen notification that simply gives you some information that you could choose to act upon or simply dismiss. What you're looking at on this particular visual here is this is the web application that supports the native mobile application. So this is your network operations center that says, where are all of my devices at any given time? You can search by unique number. You can search by all different parameters that you establish as part of the configuration. And you can provide all kinds of analytics. Here's an example of where we did a unique filter on this, and it shows you where those particular assets are that are narrowed by that filter. So as you can see, really rich capability that all comes down to the fact that we've picked up the data from somewhere. And IoT platforms that sat in front of that data provide a lot of logic, a lot of different very valuable services, but then they always fall short of that final mile. And so what Domo does with the world of IoT is really to help you take that final mile of data to the hands of end users largely that sit in the lines of business. So Shark Ninja, here's a quick commercial on Shark Ninja. Is there audio with this?
Vacuum could clean almost anywhere, all on its own. Presenting the Shark Ion robot. It maneuvers from floors to carpets and uses smart sensor navigation to spot trouble and steer around it. This robot is a Shark that cleans, docks, and charges automatically. The Shark Ion robot.
So Shark's a customer of Domo, and this was a really fun project to work on. They had been, you see the devices up here. They had these products in market. They were collecting data. A lot of this data was simply going to a S3 bucket that was sitting there, and people didn't really know how to manage it. They didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know what questions to ask their data, and they didn't have the people to actually effectively do that. So what that provided them with was just this bottleneck of recognizing that they have something valuable there, but how do you actually do something with it? So you see right here, they tried limited sets of robots, took people too long to actually get very little value and very little information. It was extremely manual, it was expensive to do, and it took a great deal of time. With a sample size of 20 of hundreds of thousands, you don't learn a lot from that. But it really was that bottleneck of the how. How do they get more value and unleash the harness of that data? So with Domo, we worked within just a matter of months. We leveraged our IoT platform that we have. We worked with the customer to understand how do you monitor your environment for performance, but then also how do you get that data in the hands of sales, marketing, product development. Why sales? So here's an interesting one. If you have a bunch of people that bought the product, largely you know where they bought it, probably because of the consumer location that they purchased it from, or somewhere like Amazon. But where do you know that robot is actually being deployed? You wouldn't know that just by purchase history. And it's interesting for a sales and marketer to understand where their products are deployed, because then they could layer on top of that data with data around wealth and affluence to see where are they underpenetrated based upon deployment. So that's just a new way to think about how do you sell and market products based upon where the products are actually being deployed, not where they were purchased. From the product development side, it would be great to know if there were exterior types of environmental concerns that may have a problem with or contribute to a problem with your product. The example would be, if you live in an area that's extraordinarily dusty, you would assume that it's probably going to break your product more, something like a vacuum. Well, you don't know that unless you put those different types of data on top of each other. So pollen's another good example. So when you add all these data points on top of performance, all of a sudden now you could realize, do you need to create different, more durable products for different parts of the regions of which people are buying your product? It's just a whole new way to think about product development. So hundreds of thousands deployed today. They'll have over 1 million by the end of year. And another thing that helped as an outcome of this IoT project we work with them on is they have a much better customer experience because they know what's going on with their product. They could be much more on top of any challenges that they have, and they can provide a 5-star experience. So we're going to let this roll. Let's see here. There we go. So I'm going to break down a little bit of what you're seeing here. You're seeing a system of state, so all the robots that are going on and off around the country. The higher the bar, the more devices in that expanded view that you see here. This is important to understand. What if you wanted to have some sort of a promotion recognizing the fact that everybody turns a robot on at 6 in the morning? So wake up with your robot. There's all kinds of things you can do recognizing when people are actually using your product. On the left-hand side, you see some analytics that are meaningful and important to them. What day of week do these products get used? Again, promotional purposes come into play there. On the bottom left, you see stats on the actual device data that's being produced. An interesting one is when is the amount of robots that are lost? Are they in clean mode? What are they actually doing? What percentage of the time are they cleaning versus at rest? An incredible amount of data and wealthy information comes from that. Now, I talked earlier about layering on third-party data. Here's an example where they're going through, you're choosing counties with employment. We're including different types of data that comes from US Census to understand where all these robots are, what are all the other things that I want to know about that deployment, the people that live in and around that area. You can see how fast this is also by hovering with all the metadata. Because we were born in the cloud, we have the ability to be really, really fast. You can zoom in, all the feature-rich capabilities that comes with the advanced mapping technologies today to understand if you wanted to look at county by county or as granular to the municipality as you would like to. It's going to build out. Now, what if you wanted to know at any given time which type of error or other type of filter that you want to know across the entire distributed fleet of hundreds of thousands of devices? You want to know who is sitting in what particular state of operation at any given time. So this is just applying a filter on this to let you know that these ones, these were told to start beeping for user to locate it. Well, that's interesting. You can see that there's a preponderance of those in the Northeast, largely because of the size of their deployment. But there's just so many things that you can do when you have the accessibility of all of that data in an easy-to-use UI. This week, actually I think it was last week, we announced a partnership with Verizon and AWS around a critical asset, asset tracking application, a full solution, that leverages the critical asset sensor, the CAS device that Verizon has put in market. These devices are about this big. You see the picture of them right there. And they're deployed at scale for people who want to understand things like temperature, location. It has humidity. You can see the 8 different measurements that they have there. And so these lightweight, very easily deployable sensors have tremendous value. This is an example of one where when I showed you the asset tracking solution with the trailer and the yard, this is the technology that provides that capability. We work with Amazon for IoT, the IoT platform part of this. So you think about the devices, Verizon, AWS is the IoT platform, and then Domo is the solution that sits on top of that. And we have a finished solution out in market today that brings the power of these 3 companies together. So what's the call to action? What can we do to get started? Well, if you have something you'd like to track, we'd love to help you. We have the ability to offer you all a free day POC, so a proof of concept for 60 days, where we'll help you get started with 3 devices powered by Verizon, leveraging AWS IoT core services, with the finished application being the Domo asset tracking app. So you can see the URL there. We'd like to engage with you any way we can around the world of IoT, but it's a good first place to start if you've got some assets that you want to track and understand just the power of the IoT platforms that we've presented today. This is a great way to start. So I'm done with my content. I said a lot of words. Before we go to Q&A, let's give away some robots. Geoff, do I have it in my text? All right. So winner number 1. Let's see here. Did you text or email? I say that because clearly I don't have one, so how about we try that one again? Otherwise, I'll point. Yeah, why don't you come out? Nick Purday. This almost feels like a plant, though. He's in the front row. That didn't. Congratulations, nonetheless, Nick.
Thank you.
There you go. You bet. Allison? Allison. There you go.
And I apologize, Bonnie? Here we go, perfect.
All right, congratulations. So we've got a few minutes left. Is there any questions? We've got some open mics up here, small room, so shout it out, but some questions we can offer up for you. Prashant, why don't you come up here?
Yeah.
Sir.
So what's the requirements for IoT devices to be basically enrolled on the Domo network? Is it just common, basically whatever complies with AWS IoT? That's enough?
Yeah, so think of this as from the device, IoT Core and IoT services pick that up, and then we natively connect to that. So
Got it.
the requirements.
So you connect to IoT Core natively.
That's right. But again, so we have a program called the AWS Device Qualification Program. It's sort of a global program of hardware qualification, different types of hardware. You could have sensors, gateways, cameras, and they get qualified to work with the AWS IoT services, and even things like Amazon Kinesis video stream. So if you want to qualify a camera to securely stream video feeds into AWS environment. So there is a list of about 350 plus different types of devices from 90 different partners. That's on what we call as a partner device catalog. So you can go online and look at what those devices are.
A little earlier, you probably one of the very first slides, you talked about a separation with consumer platform and industrial platforms. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yep.
What's the difference? How they use? Why do we have two? What's going on?
Largely packaging. So consumer, the packaging is way bigger units. They're less critical workloads. They're more informative. They're mission critical. So it's, and then the industrial is the exact opposite of that. So it's largely just a convenience of packaging for you.
So, I mean, you made a very compelling case for IoT devices and value it. But, I mean, everything you just demonstrated, maybe aside of a sleek UI, can be done with stitching together a couple AWS existing services. So could you please elaborate where you want and where you added value in each step of data transition?
So when it comes to, I'll give you the perfect example is S3. And I mentioned a lot of people put IoT data into an S3 bucket and it sits there and has birthdays, right? And so what's different about that is there's tremendous value in putting that S3, the bucket or the data in S3. Domo connects to it easily to actually make that actionable and usable. So the value add there is we unlock the value of that data. We make it accessible to end users. So that's an easy first.
But it also Amazon Athena and kind of subsequent workflow, which could do the exact same thing.
Athena doesn't put it in end user hands. So again, I would say the logical separation is where the service itself ends. That's the easiest way to pick that up. Now, people could use our services to get much lower in the stack if they don't yet recognize that they need the power of these IoT platform. Absolutely, they can. Our recommendation is for people that especially want to use that IoT at scale is you leverage the IoT services from Amazon because of all the logic that they built in and all the services that they perform on your behalf. We natively connect into that to provide you with an end user experience that you don't build on your own. And I mean, let's be honest here, that everything that you saw here today, with unlimited resources and time and creativity, you could build that on your own. We're trying to accelerate and fast forward with a perspective that we know because our customers have told us that this is very meaningful to them.
Can you elaborate on price points and how you deliver these services?
It's largely based upon devices, so the numeric count of devices. And so you buy the Domo platform. We can talk about the way that you procure IoT Core and analytics, but it's based upon the amount of devices, frequency of refresh that you want, the amount of data. Basically, we take advantage of providing you capabilities based upon what is important to you. Do you want it faster? You'll pay more. Do you want it slower? You know, it's trade-offs that you make. We wanted to model the pricing and packaging very much like the building blocks that you're used to and know and love from Amazon. So you get to pick and choose the variables that uniquely meet your business case for what you're willing to pay. Any other questions? All right. Well, if anybody wants to come up and have a side conversation, we'll certainly do so for the next 10 or 15 minutes. But thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you again.
Yeah, Prashant?
Thank you again. One last thing before I forget. The next slide. Just make sure we value your feedback. We take it seriously. So please provide the survey. Look at it. I mean, Jay and I will be here around if you have any more questions. Thank you again.
Thank you.